Yo, what up, Sauce Gang? Today I'm going to be talking about a franchise that I play quite a bit of, but I haven't really talked about on the channel, I don't think. It's The Elder Scrolls. I'm just going to get right into it. The Elder Scrolls has been going on a long time, and I've been playing it probably since like 2011 with the release of Skyrim, although I didn't start with Skyrim. I actually started with Morrowind on the original Xbox. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about more than just Skyrim or Oblivion or Morrowind. I kind of wanted to talk about just Elder Scrolls in general and just some of the weird stuff in it, or some of the obscure games, and just some of my favorite games and some of my favorite things to do in the franchise. Alright, now I know I just told you that I'm not going to be talking all about Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind, but I'm going to start off with Skyrim because everybody knows about Skyrim. Now this is my copy of Legendary Edition. I've actually owned this for a really long time. I gave it to a friend for a few years and they still had it, and I got my entire PS3 collection back, and this was in there, and it's fucking Skyrim. And in my opinion, you don't need to buy any other version of Skyrim than Legendary Edition. Special Edition has enhanced graphics and bug fixes, if you really believe that. There's the Anniversary Edition, which... Are you really paying for a 10-year anniversary of a game that hasn't even seen a sequel or spin-off and, God knows when? I know Elder Scrolls Blades came out and exists, but it's terrible. At least in my opinion. Maybe you like it, I don't. But, I wanted to start with Skyrim because it is both one of the newest Elder Scrolls games, excluding Blades and Online, that, has come out. And it's cut a lot of features from the previous games. There's a lot you can't really do in Skyrim, or a lot that's just kind of streamlined. That's how I would explain Skyrim. It's very streamlined. Solstheim is cool, the Dragonborn DLC is cool. I can't even remember the other DLC, the one with the vampires in it. Dawnguard, that's what it's called. Dawnguard was a cool DLC. I like the Vampire Slayer armor, I like the fucking armored trolls, that was cool. But most of Skyrim is just empty and shallow. It's a fucking wide-ass pond, but it's super, super shallow. There really isn't a ton of depth in Skyrim. I mean, you can grind, whatever skill up to, maximum, and then you just kick ass in that skill forever, and that's that. But the other Elder Scrolls games are a little bit different. They're a little bit more role-play and a little bit less, power trippy, center of the university. Although, you are always pretty important in the Elder Scrolls games. Alrighty, now the next game we're going to talk about was my third Elder Scrolls game experience. First, like I said before, was Morrowind on Xbox, which I really didn't understand at the time, but I did play it and I did enjoy it. I just wasn't really apt into playing those kind of games. Second would have been Skyrim, and third, this is probably the one I know the least about. I've played a good amount of it. I do love it. It does have a lot more depth, in my opinion, than Skyrim, but it's also probably the hardest to go back to, in my opinion, because it does play like a modern Elder Scrolls game, but it does not look or... it's a little strange. It's our good old friend Oblivion here. Oblivion's a cool game. It's got really cool story. It's got a lot of fun moments. You've got Shia Gorath, who's fucking nutty in this game. You can just do a lot of dumb stuff. The arena is super cool. That's what I spent most of my time doing as a child. I'm sure a lot of people also did that. But, yeah, it's pretty cool. You can go to Oblivion. There's fucking Goblin Wars, kind of. That's really cool. Go watch a video on that. Yeah, I really don't know what to say about this game other than bloom. There's so much fucking bloom that it hurts my eyes. Jesus. Alright, now we're getting into my kind of fucking bread and butter when it comes to this. We're gonna get into more of the classic Elder Scrolls games now. Now, I've mentioned Morrowind like 2 or 3 times now, and Morrowind is really, really great, and I do want to talk about Morrowind, but I think I might hold off a lot of that for another video, because Morrowind is a whole fucking beast, and it's just... Okay. Morrowind is pretty difficult for modern gamers to go back to, because instead of when you do an action like attack, it's not instantaneous. You don't see it happen and then it happens. It's a dice roll, but it doesn't look like that. This game looks like how modern games looked in that time, but it played pretty classical RPG. Total, like, dice rolls on everything, Dungeons and Dragons type shit. And I think that's a decent mechanic. If you know how to build your character, which if you don't know how to build your character, you're playing Morrowind wrong. Just watch a few videos on Morrowind if you want to learn how to play Morrowind, and you'll start to get the gist of it. If you pick a wrong build, you've picked a wrong build and you messed up. But anyway, Morrowind has a really cool story. It's pretty open-ended. You just kind of get thrown into Vardenfell, and you just are told to deliver a letter, and you probably do that because you don't know what else to do. And then you just kind of wander around and do shit. There's no, like, markers that are just put on your screen or on your map or anything. You have a journal. And so, let's say you get a quest from some random dude outside Satanin, and he's like, hey, I need you to go to this fucking tomb and stab these ghosts for me. Okay, cool, I got you. Well, it's down the river to the left. It's by this big-ass rock over there, and there's, like, a tree by it. Those are the directions you're given here. You get some pretty vague-ass instructions. But it really helps kind of immerse you in the world. I mean, you really do have to go out and find shit, or it'll come out and find you, and if it finds you, you're fucked, and you're dead. But Morrowind's really fun. You really feel like you're surviving in Vardenfell. I think it's Blood Moon, the Blood Moon DLC, which has Solstheim, which is also in Skyrim from the Dragonborn DLC. That's a really cool place, although since it's so much earlier in the timeline from Skyrim, there is literally nothing on Solstheim. There's a mining colony and a fort, and that mining colony is Raven Rock, and there's like 3 dudes there and like a fucking some scaffolding. Although you can build it up by doing the quests and stuff. But it's a really cool DLC. The game itself is super fun. Tribunal's a good DLC. The Morag Tong are super cool. Just the lore in that game is so rich and so deep, and there's just so much to do that it's really difficult for me to just kind of talk about Morrowind in a video about Elder Scrolls in general. So we're just going to get moving along. Alrighty, now it's time to talk about what I might consider my favorite in this franchise, mostly because there's pretty much unlimited possibilities in this game that are pretty much just unmatched in my opinion, and that would be Daggerfall. And I like this game so much that even though you can get it for free, I did buy a physical copy of it to play on my Windows 95 laptop, which I may or may not make a video on. But Daggerfall is wicked. Daggerfall has the biggest map that I've ever seen. It is gigantic. From walking from one end to the other would take an insane amount of time. Like, probably real days of time. Like, no joke. It's huge. It's procedurally generated between areas. I think there's some constants, like if it's hilly or not. Like certain terrain, things like that, like in Minecraft. But the world is gigantic. And what can you do in this game? You can take out loans, you can buy a house, you can buy a fucking boat, you can go out and just gamble, you can go contract a disease, which you inevitably will do, and you will always fucking die. This game is brutal. It is brutally difficult. As soon as you spawn in this game, usually you spawn in a dungeon, which, if you're familiar with older Elder Scrolls games, you know that you need to, as soon as you enter this game, you need to save. Because if you don't, you're going to restart the entire game, you're going to have to rebuild your whole character and all this shit. So, you save your game. That's step 1. Step 2 is basically attempt to kill whatever enemies are in this dungeon until you do, and just save and reload. Because you probably fucking won't your first time. But after you get the hang of it, it's not too tough to get through this dungeon, and usually it's a good idea to spawn in this dungeon because you'll get a lot of good loot and you can level up maybe once or twice, probably only once. But you can choose to not spawn in the dungeon, and you'll just spawn literally in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in Daggerfall, which is in what is the High Rock? Yeah, High Rock. And yeah, you're just kind of dropped in the middle of nowhere with nothing, and that's how you start the game. Well, what are you gonna do about it? Hopefully fucking, find a weapon. Well, where do you find a weapon? A graveyard. The entire cycle for like your first step of Daggerfall, you're just going to be going around in these cemeteries and graveyards and crypts and just going in, stabbing a few rats and fucking bats, or maybe a thief or fucking whatever else, and just take their shit and make out like a bandit. You can buy a horse, which makes traveling a lot easier. Daggerfall's got a lot of depth, and the depth comes from what you decide to do. You can become an outlaw in certain provinces of certain, or I guess province isn't the right word, like states of these provinces in High Rock and Hammerfell, because it is both countries in the Iliac Bay. It's a really cool map. Like for me, I personally just go out and either I just try to find the coolest equipment I can before I contract a disease and inevitably die, because there's like 50 diseases in this game and all of them are fatal except for one, which is stomach rot. But anyway, you just go out, find some cool shit. I'll usually take out a few loans in a few countries that I'm never going to pay back. And then I buy a house somewhere pretty, and then I die of dementia, which is a real disease you can contract in Daggerfall. Yeah, it's got a lot of depth for almost no reason, but I fucking love it. There's also nudity, so streamers beware. Titties all over the place. There might even be some wee-wee. And if you're going to play Daggerfall, you need to know that this is not the way to go about it. Do not buy this disc and then go and put it in your Windows 10 PC and expect to play Daggerfall. It's not going to happen. You can play it on pretty much anything up to like 32-bit XP, I think. 64-bit XP won't read it. I'm pretty sure it's just because it's a 32-bit only program. And if that doesn't work, it might even be like Windows Me, which you're fucked if you're using Windows Me. So if you're going to play Daggerfall, you're going to probably want to go on Bethesda's website and get the file, and then run it in DOSBox, which I think it's already bundled with DOSBox. But that's also not a good way to play it. What you should do is get Daggerfall Unity and just run it like that, because Daggerfall Unity actually makes this game playable and like really, really good. You can throw some graphics mods on there like Dream, some combat mods, some redone hand-drawn assets, and the game will look really good. And it will also play like a normal fucking game, and not a game where you have to just do this with the mouse over and over and over and over again, because old Elder Scrolls, it's difficult and complicated to explain right now, but play the Unity version of the game. It looks way better, and it's on GOG for free. The GOG cut is pretty killer, although the Dream mod is really, really cool, which doesn't work with the GOG cut. So you can either just go with the Unity version online, or you can go with the GOG version. They're both really good, and they're both definitely worth playing if you like any of the Elder Scrolls games. Give Daggerfall a try, and try not to die of dysentery, dementia, or whatever other fucking disease that you're going to contract. Alright, now to finish this video up, I wanted to talk about a couple other games that I played a little bit of and I do own, but it's kind of more recent to the collection, and nobody really talks about these games. The first one is going to be Battlespire. This game came out after Daggerfall and before the other game and before Morrowind. I'll get to the other game. And it's the first game that has like almost full 3D. Like the enemies aren't in 3D, but at least your weapons are in 3D, which Daggerfall didn't have that. But it's not open world. It's almost entirely combat based. There's no gold or anything. You can talk to every enemy for whatever reason. It's kind of a gimmicky mechanic, but it is kind of cool. The voice acting's bad. And it's completely linear. But it's pretty much just a dungeon crawler. You just go through dungeons, beat the dungeon, and you're done. That's how you beat levels in this game. There's levels. I think there's like 6 of them. No, there's more than 6 of them, I'm pretty sure. Look, the first ones are usually the hardest ones, and then the game gets a little easier. I don't know why it's structured like that, but Bethesda was just fucking with everybody back in '97 when they came out with fucking Battlespire. The second game, the other game, which I can't even believe that Moist Critical covered this today, fucking Redguard. Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard is an action-adventure game that plays like Tomb Raider, set in the Elder Scrolls universe, and I think it's even before Arena. and it's you play as Cyrus, who is a pirate, and you're a red guard who's pretty cool, and you're off to catch, or not catch, but get your sister who's been kidnapped, and apparently you guys are like estranged. It's pretty funny, like in the cutscene, because he's talking about, oh, well, why are you guys estranged? And Cyrus, he just goes, I killed her husband. So you're off to get your sister who doesn't like you because you killed her husband. So yeah, that's the story. And out of fucking nowhere, Moist Critical decided that he was going to start a speedrun challenge for this game, which I am entering. But besides that, this game is not amazing. It's got a pretty cool story and stuff, but it's pretty linear. It's not straightforward, even though it's linear. And it plays like fucking Tomb Raider. It plays like Tomb Raider on PS1. What else am I supposed to tell you? The combat feels like you're fucking fighting your cousin with a pool noodle. It's not exactly a proper Elder Scrolls game. It tells a good story, and it's got cool moments, and I just like the Elder Scrolls, so I like it, but it's not really a good game. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, definitely like the video. Subscribe if you want to see more. I try to get videos out once a month, but that clearly doesn't always happen. And that's about it. See ya.